Hi everyone, I'm Aizada, CEO of Alma. Alma is a modern immigration law firm built for fast-growing tech companies. Today, I have Sukeerthi with me, the newest addition to Alma family.
Hi everyone, I'm Sukeerthi and I'm a product manager here at Alma. I've been doing product for the last couple of years in the fintech space, and right now at Alma I'm going to be building the most efficient tools and platforms for our attorneys to do the best work possible. So my first question to Aizada is, you mentioned that during the hiring process you guys had tons of applications come in for the PM role. I'm curious to know what you think I did differently to make you say we have to hire her.
We actually had, I think, more than 1,000 applications. So we went through rounds of reviews, and multiple people came to the round with me. I think there were multiple things that stood out with you. One thing is that how your homework really was a killer one. It was amazing. Everyone was blown away how you did it. It was super clear. It got to the point. It was creative and it was sharp. So we were like, her homework is amazing. And then we did rounds of interviews. Abi, who's head of product, Shuo, my technical co-founder, and myself. And to me, when I was interviewing you, what is also super important to me in a product manager, the product manager understands what person will be driving, right? So I think I asked you questions like, what do you think your job is? And it's so interesting is that a lot of product managers, even though they're doing this job day to day, they don't seem to say what I want to hear. And you said it exactly. I was like, okay, she actually knows. But I was impressed how thoughtful you were. You communicated really well and you were very sharp. And this is when I was like, okay, Sukeerthi was amazing. And you know, we actually do not discuss the candidates before each of us formed an independent opinion because we don't want to influence each other.
Okay.
So then I talked to you, and Shuo and Abby were like, what did you think? And I was like, she's amazing. And because usually candidates come to me and I'm like, I don't like this person, you know? So it's like, she's amazing. And they were like, okay, we're so relieved because she was the best for us as well.
Thank you. I had a great time interviewing with everybody. You guys had such a refreshing take on how you run product and how you just run a startup in general. And I think that was super motivating for me to like join a team like that.
A question to me was interesting is that what do you think was the biggest roadblock for you? Because as I told you, thousands of people apply. And it's really tough these days, I think, especially for those that are, they need a visa or they're immigrants or, fresh graduates. So I wonder what was the biggest roadblock for you during the interview process?
Honestly, my immigration situation. I had many offers fall through and I went to the final rounds of many companies and it just didn't work out because of my visa situation. I think when you're on an H-1B and you're in between jobs, you have 60 days to not only secure a job, but also to have your H-1B change of employer filed. And that's a really stressful period. So companies look at that and almost always have a misconception that this is a really complicated case. For my case specifically, though, there was a legal pathway, but that included a lot of billable attorney hours and a lot of communication between the HR and their immigration vendor. So naturally, this was perceived as a complicated situation for any company that I interviewed with. So when I brought up my visa in the interview, Abi, our head of product, just said, okay, and just moved on. It was a breath of fresh air because nobody really seemed to care about my visa and they were just focused on the interview and what I had to offer. So what goes through your head when you see a complex candidate visa situation like mine?
We actually don't know anyone's immigration situation up until we make an offer. And here it was the same. I remember I was in the office making coffee. Abi walks up to me and I'm like, when Sukeerthi is starting? And he goes, oh, she has a very complex immigration situation. I've talked to the attorneys, we might have issues down the line. And during that moment, I could just imagine what everyone else would think. They would think, oh, this literally means hundreds of emails back and forth with an outside counsel trying to figure out the best path, try to understand all the complications down the line, and fees just going up during the process. And it's a headache for someone, but for me, it's a great opportunity. At that moment, I thought, okay, so that's why it clicked for me that, why Sukeerthi is not working at an amazing place already, right? Because she has immigration issues. So that was an opportunity for me to get the best candidate we could, because all the complexity down the line doesn't scare me because we have the best in-house immigration attorneys and they're so creative. They never tell me, oh, we cannot do this. They'll say, we'll find pathways how to make this work, of course, staying within the law. So that's why I trust the process. I know my people and I was like, okay, so when is she starting then? And that was the conversation we had. And the next thing, we had you with us. So I want to ask your experience with Alma as well, because we did your H-1B transfer. So how was your experience, and what did you do in the meantime since you signed the offer and started working with us?
I can tell you what I didn't do first. I was not checking the USCIS status page like 500 times a day. I was not chronically online on Reddit the whole day trying to find other people who were on the same boat as me. And I think I just could have a regular life, which seems super simple, but just isn't for people going through visa issues. So my immigration process was pretty simple. I just filled out a couple of questionnaires on the Alma platform, answered a couple of attorney questions, and that was it. It was as simple as filling out comments on a Google Doc. The attorneys here are really supportive. They were really reassuring and told me that they would get me the authorization to work here in the US as I deserve. And honestly, it just was really relieving because I haven't heard anything like that in a while.
So what I see when we work with companies in the Bay Area is if they have hired someone, they're usually, majority of the time, they're very scarred because the process was not smooth.
Yeah.
As a startup, your advantage is speed and focus. You need to be focused on your business and you need to move fast.
Yeah.
And then here you go, engage with an immigration attorney. Everything is a black box. You don't know when the candidate can start.
Yeah.
You don't know about any complexities. You don't know about all the hidden costs. And then like founders usually get dragged into all of it immigration. And after, first experience, they're like, I don't think we should do this again because it's just a really complex process. And that's what they get. This is a misconception that everyone has, is that hiring immigrants is so hard, is so complex, is so expensive. We're not going to do it. The other option is that when they work with like big law firms that they do their corporate stuff with, and then they can do things fast, but then they all of a sudden are getting insane bills for one visa, and then the candidate that you most likely engaged in a recruiter for, and then you're also paying like big money on top of for immigration, they're just scarred. So they haven't seen how the experience can be different.
So if fast-growing startups have a policy that we don't sponsor visas, what are they losing out on?
Right now, in the Bay Area, as I said before, the competition for talent is insane because they're all, of course, we all know there's OpenAI, Anthropic, Google. They can throw money at any candidate, right? Like they have deep pockets, and their lawyers will prioritize this account. So then for startups, what do? Like, how do you build your unfair advantage? It's like, if you're fighting for talent that has been already discovered by everyone else, good luck securing that talent, right? So then for startups is discovering an undiscovered talent, like someone that others might pass on thinking, oh, this is hard, this is complex, just like you, right? Like I can imagine after this interview, everyone would be like, oh, that's the girl, we thought immigration was easy and look at her working at Alma, right? So I think that's what they're missing on. They're just missing on the best candidate, and they're literally throwing their unfair advantage out the window because they think it is too complex.
This was lovely, Aizada. Thank you so much for chatting with me one-on-one.
Thank you for your time as well. If you're a startup founder or people ops or head of HR who's dealing with immigration, and if you're struggling with it, come and talk to us, because the last thing you want is to lose your best candidate in the pipeline to an immigration issue.